Hey yo, hey yo.
Hey,
Yo.
I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Past lives couldn't ever hold me down. Lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't our first time around. Past lives could never come between us. Sometimes the dreamers finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Past lives couldn't ever hold me down. Lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't our first time around. Past lives could never come between us. Sometimes the dreamers finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Past lives couldn't ever hold me down. Lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't our first time around. Past lives could never come between us. Sometimes the dreamers finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Past lives couldn't never hold me down. Lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't our first time around. Past lives could never come between us. Sometimes the dreamers finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming. Past lives couldn't never hold me down. Lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't
for example, put a chest on this island. That's to collision and onward of the tilemap system here in Godot. So, firstly, what are we going to do? Well, we're not going to be using all of this. This is just the files that I downloaded from the start nodes. First, we're going to go briefly here. If you panel down here, just do that two files and the tile map and the tile C. Click on the tile to draw it on our map. Okay, so to actually create our tiles, so we can go and paint our tiles around on our map, we need to go over to be basically a size, right? We have it 16 by 16 sprite. Change our art folder. We can drag in the creator PNG because that's the first art that we're going to be using, and it's going to ask if we want to automatically create our tiles, and it's going to do that by the tile size that we set over here. So it's basically going to split up the image into that 16 by 16. See what happens there. We can click on yes to create all of these tiles automatically, and you're going to see what happens there. Now we have a bunch of different tiles, but you're going to be like, well, okay, do we click on paint to go and paint these? The way that we paint it is on the top, and you're going to see, let's say you click on some of these functions here, so edit example in a line, right? However, it says flip it horizontally, or we can flip it vertically. That now without having, auto type, and we can draw out where do we want our land to be, for example. Then we can go and click on this little pin tool and then we're for example, we have the swamp automatically. You're going to send the swamp objects to our tile set tab. If we expand this real quick and we come over here, you're going to see that we have a chest. Click on over here to tile map, so click on this chest and we add it. It's only going to end up adding half the chest, and it's going to remove that background. First of all, why is it going to remove the background? Well, that's because we're doing it on the same layer, so it's kind of replacing that tile instead of replacing, multiple tiles, right? If that makes sense. So it's replacing this tile, but it's not allowing us to basically put it on top of that tile. So how do we do that? Well, we can come down here to the layering tab, add an element, and it's going to automatically add in another layer for us, which whenever you have a layer here in the tile map, we can have the modulate, we can turn on Y sorting, and we can also change the Z index of that layer. And this again is the old way of doing the layering, so there is a new way to do this and a better way to do this, which we're going to go over in just a minute. But basically, what if we go to layer 1, we click on, actually let's go back to layer 0, let's go to the swamp and let's replace this green thing, right, this green square. Let's go to layer 1, let's go to our swamp objects, and then let's add in this chest, right? Then you're going to see that it's going to, if we click off, it's going to place it on top of the other layer. So now it's on a different layer, but it is only half the chest. So how do we fix that? Well, there's a way to fix this. So let's go over here. First of all, let's go to tile set, tile box. The orange square now only goes up to this point. So we want this to be centered kind of up in between these two texture origin. So drop down and click on texture origin here, and you're going to end up seeing the texture origin. Right here it's centered kind of up in between these two tiles, while this one's centered where it should be centered, right? So basically we know that we have a 16 by 16 grid, so we can kind of do some basic math. We know if this is 16 this is 8, and this is 8. So if we move it down by 8 tiles, we should be aligned perfectly with this. So if we click on this tile, we change the 8 axis by 8, and then we click on this tile, you're going to see what happens. It's going to perfectly now align it with that based on the origin of that tile, and it's going to look even. So now we're going to have a bigger tile that is actually going to be even, and we can place it around the map, and it's automatically going to overlap because the origin is now set correctly, and the top half of this tile is actually technically no longer a tile, but just visuals, right? So the tile section of this ends right here now, instead of all the way up here where it did before. So that looks cool, and that is kind of how that functions. And now we can create bigger tiles, and we can place them around on our map. So all of these tiles, really, this one needs to be a 4 big, this one needs to be 4 big, this one needs to be 2 big, 2 big, 2 big, 2 big, 2 tall, you know. And then we just actually take these. Actually, we don't want to mess with those. We just actually change the origin on those, which is not what we want to do. We want to go back to our tile map, and we want to paint some rocks around, right? So let's paint some single rocks, some solo rocks. Let's paint a mushroom, you know, and then we can kind of have that set up like that. And then if we look at our map, you can kind of see the world environment that we now have created based on layering, creating bigger tiles, and changing the origin of our tile. Create clearing settings, so map. And also the reason that this looks blurry, and change that to nearest, and then it should look this. We can end up coming over here, and we can open up the physics layering. This is where the clearing later on in this video be done. And then we have the terrain sets, which is where we're going to do auto tiling later on in this video. And then we have navigation, which is if you want to just add navigation onto a tile so that you can use the navigation node. It's another node in Godot that controls animation to check if the animation or if the navigation layer is, you know, on that tile so it can navigate within a tile set. Basically, that's a whole different topic and a whole different video. But we can go here on physics layers, add in an element, and you're going to see this is where you can control the collision layer and the collision mask. You can have as many of these layers as you want. But let's say for this rock, you wanted a different, for the sole reason of if you want different collision layers. For example, let's say for this rock, you wanted a different collision layer and a different collision mask than you wanted the water, right? So to do that, you could have 2 different layers with both set to different set. Going to our paint and coming down here to the physics layer 0, physics layer 1. But for this video, we're only going to have 1. So let's just delete one of these collision layers here, and then go to paint and go to the physics layer 0. And you're going to see that it's going to pop up with a square. So we can either do this, or we can kind of change it up based on however we, and that square should pop. Click on another one, you're going to see it's going to, we things map. So it is pixel or over here. Remember, that's not actually going to work because since it is a tile map, we can turn on our visible collision shapes. Remember, that's not actually going to work because since it is a tile map, we have a custom function over here, which is going to be our collision visibility, and we can say force to show. So it's going to show it now, right? And if we click play, what's going to happen? You're going to see that we have this collision shape, and that collision shape up there, and they are collision shapes that are going to interact with other collision shapes in your game. So that's kind of how you go about collisions in Godot on tile maps. And then some other stuff in the inspector that is around, you would have to enable this to create those sort of animations and to create that collision shape to be able to move around and still be able to collide, right? All this down here is basically default node stuff that comes on most Godot nodes, right? The position and everything. And for example, this is if you want to change the tile shape. For example, if you want to have an isometric game, and the tile layout and stuff you can't really change with a square. It affects it really weird, but you can kind of change how all this is isometric. You're going to see how that kind of affects it. It affects it really weird, but you can kind of change how all this is stacked. For example, if it's stacked on an angle, if it's stacked, you know, basically straight up and down, whatever it may be, right? But you can change that. For example, we're using square, so we'll leave it at that. I don't really know how to work all that other stuff. That's a whole different topic, right? Of course, it depends on the art that you have, but I'm sure it is the exact same way. So that's kind of the basics of the tile map node. Some of the basic stuff that you should go over, for example, auto tiling, animate more advanced things, right? So let's go over, for example, auto tiling, animations, and then let's go over an advanced layering. I want to start off with the advanced layering because it is not really advanced. It is just a different way to go about layering that involves more nodes. So I'm calling it advanced, but we'll go over that first. And then at this timestamp, of course, will move into the animation, and then this timestamp will move into creating those auto tiling systems, right? Okay, so an automatic way that we can automatically get these layering set up and these new layer nodes implemented based off of the layers that we already have on our game is by going over here into our tilemap tab and clicking on this little toolbox, and then we can click on this extract tilemap layers as individual tilemap layer nodes, and it's going to take all the layers that we currently have in this tilemap and extract them into their own nodes. If you look at that, boom, we didn't do anything, nothing changed on our game, but we do now have 2 different nodes, right? And the way that we can switch between these different nodes is by clicking on these arrows. So for example, if we want to go to layer 1, we can select on next layer, and it's automatically going to transition between these nodes over here, right? If we want to select all the layers, we can select all the layers, right? And then if we want to, for example, of course, all the same stuff, the grid, if you want to have the onion skin on, you can choose all those different options as well. But alongside just these options, we have so many more options that are almost exactly like the tile map, and that is because the tile map layer is basically just a mini tile map without the layering option, right? So that's kind of the only difference, is that over here on the tile map setting, we just have the physics layers, of course, but on a layer, you don't really need physics layers because you only need to control the physics for that specific layer. So it kind of takes away from that aspect. It takes away from the terrain sets. I mean, actually, you have all the terrain sets, but it does take away from the navigation layers because, of course, you don't need that many layers. You only need to change the information for that one layer, right? And then, of course, it takes away the layer tab because, once again, you don't need different layers to control different layers because you don't have different layers. You only have that one layer in each node. So basically, you can control the physics, which is the collisions. You can control the navigation still. You can do all that. You can change the rendering, which is the Y sorting and stuff of that order, right? One thing that I want to mention, this use kinematic body is actually the exact same thing that you see up here in the collision animation. They're just named different things. So basically, if you wanted to create a moving collision, like a moving platform, then you'd end up using that function, right? That use kinematic body. It's kind of the same thing. Basically the force show, this is kind of just showing these collisions, so we can remove that if we want to. And basically all the just normal stuff. So you can see it's a lot simpler. It uses the same tile set basically as the parent tile map. But if we come up here and we reset this, watch what happens. It's going to remove the tile set for all of that. And that was actually a mistake because we didn't save this tile set. But if we go over here, you know, and we click save as, right, and we save this tile set as just tile set, right, just a normal tile set, then we remove it, right, and then we see this, it's like, well, there's nothing there. We can come back to either layer 0, and if we load in this on layer 0, you're going to see that it's going to end up loading it in on basically just the layer 0. That layer 0 comes in, right? So it's the water and the land, just like we had on layer 0 of our tile map, right? So what was set on this layer comes back. Then if we go to layer 1, you're going to see it saves that information as well. If we load in that exact same tile set, it's going to take in that layer's information. So it kind of saves the layers separately, but all within the same file, if that makes sense, right? And then, of course, if you removed both of these and you went up to the parent tile map and we loaded that same exact file in, it's going to end up loading in all the layers, all the children of that tile map below it, just like that, right? So let's say that we wanted to create a brand new layer, right? So let's just kind of restart this. Let's remove our layers completely and let's add in a new tile map layer. How would this work, right? Whoops, that's a full-on tile map right there. But let's add in a tile map layer. And how are we going to go about this? Well, we can go over here and we can click load and we can load in our tile set, right? And then we can draw in our tiles. For example, maybe we want this to be the water layer, right? The water layer, because in a real game, you're going to want your layers very, very organized. And that's the really good part about this layering system here, right? So we can draw in a big ocean. Boom, boom. That's our water layer. Now we can have in another tile map layer for, let's say, our lower ground, right? So the lower ground layer. Now on this layer, we can create just a basic little ground. And then once we create this basic little ground, I want to go over how to create in our animations, right? Because if you see this and we draw out a little piece of land here, right? And we create just a little square, just like so. Whoops, kind of messed that up right there. but we create just a little square, we would like to see some animations on this, right? Because if we had some animations, then it's going to look like the water level is actually water and it's actually moving around on the island and it's like waves splashing. So how do we create this water to have some movement? Okay, so also real quickly, I want to just go over the benefits of doing it this way, because this may look like, well, that's a lot of work. You could just have everything done in one node. Instead, you're trying to make it done in a bunch of nodes, right? Well, there are some benefits for doing it this way. For example, Godot themselves mentions in the documentation that it helps with the overall performance of the game because it loads in differently than if it was all done in one tile map. It also, a thing that I found out is that you can end up grouping these, which is very, very beneficial for many different reasons, but it's going to make it so much easier to figure out what layers are what, how to access them from code. So basically, because now they're part of the scene tree. Each layer is specifically its own node within the scene tree, which is actually amazing for different things. For example, procedural generation, right? It'd be very useful for that, for having every single layer of the tile map separated and allowing to access each layer and change each layer individually a lot easier than you would have before with everything done within one node. And another thing is like just organization, right? So this is going to keep everything organized. You can see water layer, lower ground layer, and you don't have everything done over just in one node, and you can kind of break it down. You can kind of basically turn one node off, keep the others visible, so you can kind of see what each layer has on it, a lot different than you could have before, if that makes sense. But yeah, so overall, it makes minor changes, but the minor changes in the long run are kind of going to be beneficial to your project and for your workflow. So that's kind of why I recommend doing it this way. But of course, really any way works, is just the way that you prefer. But okay, moving on to animations. How are we going to go about creating animations here in Godot with these tile maps? So first of all, let's kind of break this down. So you can kind of see that this is a tile. This is the tile that we used up here in the corner. But this is actually frame 2 of that tile. This one is actually frame 3 of that tile. This one here is actually frame 4 of that tile. Now you can't really see a difference here, but whenever they all are added together, you're really going to end up seeing a difference there. And I just realized that we are on our lower ground layers, so we made a little error there and added some tiles somewhere where we shouldn't have, right? But that's kind of how that works. So this is frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. For example, this one here is frame 1, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4. So that's kind of the simple explanation behind it. But how do we actually do this different animation? So the animations are going to be done in each layer individually. So on our ground layer, for example, we can click on our ground layer. We can go to our tile set. And actually, I believe that these changes that we make in this tile set tab are actually going to be shared between all these layers because they're shared in this file right here. So whatever change you make here should go over to all the other layers if you're going to use the same tile on multiple different layers. But we go up here to the select tab and we can select on whatever tile we want. For example, if we want to select on this tile, we can select on this. It's going to tell you kind of the breakdown of that tile, whatever you need to see. And then we're going to go down here to animation. Now animation is going to basically ask you a few questions. It's going to ask you column, separation, speed, and then of course the frames. So for example, columns, basically this is how many frames or how many different columns you're going to be using. So of course we're going to end up using 4 different columns. We're going to use this one, this one, this one, and this one. Column is up and down. So if it's like animations downwards, so let's say it's these 3, then it's only going to be 1 column and it's going to be separated by 0 on the Y. And it's going to know that, okay, we need to go down. But if you have 3 columns and you have 3 frames, then it's going to know that you need to go across. But since we're going to have 4 columns, right, because we have 4 different columns, and each column is actually separated by 1, 2, 3, 4 different squares, we can separate it by 4 different squares. On the x-axis, we can set the speed to a little bit quicker, and we can come down here and just click on add another frame. Okay, and it's not going to let us add a frame because these are actually already classified as their own tiles. So we actually need to go over here to setup and we need to delete all of these tiles, right? So we can click on that little eraser tool and just kind of run over all these tiles here because it's not going to be able to add a tile to another tile if it's its own tile, right? So, okay, back to select, click on this tile, go back to animations, columns 4, separation 4, speed 2, and then we can add in another frame and you're going to see it's automatically going to highlight that one. It's going to automatically highlight that one, automatically highlight that one, and that should be working. Everything in our game should be working as well, and you're gonna see it actually is working, so that looks good. But that one, it's kind of hard to see what's going on there because it's just a single pixel moving. So let's do this one. This one should be more noticeable. Okay, it's going to be the exact same settings, right? It's 4 different columns. They're all separated by 4 different squares. Let's set the speed to 2 so it matches, and then we can add in 4 different frames, and it's automatically going to pick those frames for us. You're going to see this entire row here now start to move. Okay, boom. Then we go through. It's going to be the exact same settings for all of these different squares because it is a sprite sheet and they are all separated the exact same, right? So boom, now we have these 3 going. So you can kind of see this entire side of the island moving. Then we need to do this one here. Whoops, animation. So column 4, separation of 4, speed of 2, frames 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is just going to get repetitive for basically this tile, this tile, this tile here, this tile here, this tile here, this tile here, this one, and this one, and this one, and it's gonna basically just be all of those. So I'm gonna go do those real quick in a time lapse just so I don't waste all your time. So I'll be right back. Okay, boom. So I just went and created all these different animations for all the different tiles that we have here. You can kind of see if we highlight over one, it's going to show you those other tiles all highlighted as well down here. If you look at that in the other sections, it's going to highlight those exact tiles just a tiny bit, but you can kind of see that it matches all those tiles. And if we look at our island now, we do have a bit of a little flow in there, and we have some animation. But again, let's go over a different style of animation. It's actually the exact same thing. I just want to add in something fancier here to this layer. For example, what if we wanted to add in a campfire, right? Well, let's do that on another layer. So we're going to add in a tile map layer. We're going to call this a miscellaneous layer. Miscellaneous layer 1, right? Miscellaneous layer 1, we can end up loading in that same tile set. Come over here to our objects. You're going to see that this is our campfire. So to do this, we're actually going to have to go and erase some of these tiles because we only want one of these tiles. So how do we create a big tile? Remember, we shift and then drag, click, and then we need to reset this origin and erase objects. Miscellaneous layer 1, right? Miscellaneous layer 1, we can end up loading in that same tile set. Come over here to our objects. You're going to see that this is our campfire. So to do this, we're actually going to have to go and erase some of these tiles because we only want one of these tiles. So how do we create a big tile? Remember, we shift and then drag, click, and then we need to reset this origin, right? Because the origin's up here in the center and it's not going to be aligned with everything else. So to fix that, we can go to paint. And of course we have the physics layer. So if you wanted to add in a little physics piece, let's actually go through a little redo, right? So let's kind of learn how to create everything again, right? Like a little refresher. So maybe you wanted a little physics piece here on the campfire. We can end up adding that in, and then you'd have to add this in for every single frame. But because it is an animation, we're not going to have to, right? So we can do that. We can go in here, we can go to our texture origin, we can change it by 8 down so that it lines up perfectly there. And then to add in an animation, we can go over here, right? Just like we did before, to the select tab, go over down so that in here we can go to our texture origin. Going to have to, right? You'd have to add this in for every single frame, but because it is an animation, we're not going to have to, right? So we can do that. We can go in here, we can go to our texture origin, we can change it by 8 down so that it lines up perfectly there. And then to add in an animation, we can go over here, right? Just like we did before, to the select tab and come up here to animation. How are we going to do this one this time, right? It's going to be a little different. It's still going to take up 4 columns, right? So we'll do 4 columns. It's separated this time by 0. There's no squares in between, so we can leave that at 0. We can set the speed to, like, let's do 5 because the campfire is supposed to be quick, right? They're supposed to be moving, and then it's going to be 4 frames, and you're going to see that it's going to automatically pick those frames, and it's going to pick the frames the same size as the frame that we just had, just like that. And then we can go to our tile map tab, and we can click on this. You're going to see if we want to paint in a animated layer, all of this is going to be highlighted because it's all part of this frame right here. We click on that, we can drag it up here, should be able to. Should be able to drag it up here and click somewhere, and we should be able to place it. Now it's not letting us do that for some reason. Oh, that's because we have our eraser on and we have our square. So let's go to the pin mode, click on this, and we can drag it up here and place it wherever we want. And you're going to see those animations start to happen. So that is kind of how you go about animations here with the tile set system in Godot. Now I want to move into more of the auto tiling system, because the auto tiling system is a really cool system, and we're going to make use of these animation tiles, so you can auto load tile, or you can auto tile with animated tiles, if that makes sense. Because you see all these tiles here, we're going to auto tile with these exact tiles, so the animation's already going to be involved, the auto tiling is going to be involved for us, and everything's going to be set up for us, and we're going to be doing pretty good. So let's move into auto tiling real quick, as it is also a very important function with the tiling system that you should know. And I'll give you my personal opinion on it, because it's kind of probably a not very common opinion on the auto loading or auto tiling system. But yeah, I'll give you that. It's kind of some advice that you can take or leave. But let's move into auto tiling and learn about that now. Okay, so to create auto loading here in Godot with these tile maps, it's actually going to be very, very easy, and it makes everything so much easier on yourself in the future, right? It takes a little bit to set up, but then after that, you'll be able to create maps very, very quickly, right? So to do this, it's actually done in a new way here in Godot 4.3 because of these different layering nodes. If you look over here, there's no place to create a terrain set, right? Because we need a terrain to be able to create the way that we want the tiles to kind of connect with each other. So the reason we have to do this is we have to go up to our main parent tile map, and we can come down here to the terrain set, add in a tile set there, and then we can create a terrain within that tile, or within that terrain set. We'll just name this grass water, right? So this will be the grass connecting to the water tile set. And then to start adding this to our tiles, we can come down here to the lower ground layer. We can click on the paint tab, change this from texture origin down to terrains, click on our terrain set that we just created, and then select the terrain that we want to use, and then we can kind of go down here and connect it. So we can just click on a square, draw in a terrain on that. So since this is grass, the simple way to think about this is Lego bricks, right? So because it's, if we go over here to our main, it's connecting with corners and sides, it's going to use the side and the corners. So for example, this right here is going to now connect to this, because we're going to be spawning these in, but it's never going to want to leave a brown square here not connected to another brown square. This brown square is always going to want to connect to another brown square. So if we do something like this, right, these brown squares are always going to want to connect to this center one. So it should create this center one. So whenever we're drawing our terrain, it's going to spawn all of these center ones, and then it's going to spawn these to connect to the edges of these center ones to create an outline, if that makes sense. So if we go to our tile map and we go to over here, click on terrains, click on the grass, click on rectangle, draw out a rectangle, you're going to see that it doesn't really work because we're doing that on the tile map. So if we go back to our lower ground layer and then do this on our lower ground layer, you're going to see that it's actually going to work because we're going to be able to spawn them, and you're going to see that animation comes through. But if we use the pen tool and we try and draw this, it's going to not really look right at all, right? Like that doesn't look right at all. So to create that and make that look right, we can add in some of these other tiles by going to our tile set and drawing in this tile map with these. So it's going to connect the sides. So basically a good way to think about this is if you are creating an island like this, or you're creating a pathway, color in all the pathway or color in all the grass, and don't color in the water, because that's going to connect grass with grass, and it's going to leave the water to connect to water because water doesn't have that terrain on it. So basically, if you have, like, for example, a grass terrain, you want to color in all the grass because the grass is classified as the grass terrain, and you want grass to connect to other grass. So if you want that piece of the tile to connect to another tile, color it in. That's the simple way to think about it, right? So now if we go over here to the tile map, we go to terrain, we draw in a square, you're going to see that the same, oh, we have eraser on. We draw in a square, you're going to see that that happens. But if we go to the pen tool and we start drawing in, it's going to connect to that square now. And then we can create something like actually crazy like this. And then of course we're going to have to fill in the inner pieces here, but it's going to automatically fill that in even if we're using our terrain. And you're going to see that this weird funky island that we just created, and we can also come up here and delete some, and then redraw over the top of these here. And we're actually going to get a kind of funky error there, which is a bit strange. So boom. Okay, so you can kind of see that it creates all of these edges for us, and they're all animated and they're all set up. And you see that, like, if we were to do this manually, we would have had to click this one, then change the tile, click this one, change the tile, click this one. But you can kind of see that we just created this cool looking island, and we can extend onto this island by just dragging, and it creates all those tiles and automatically sets them all up for us. If we go back to, for example, our water layer here, go to our tiles, select the water on our water layer, and we add in more water, you can kind of see how quick it is just to create a bigger and better map, just like that, right? And then, of course, if you wanted to create the mountains, you can create another terrain set for these mountains, and you could put that on top of this and create a little mountain area, but you can make that to where you can draw in that mountain. So for example, I'm going to do it in time lapse real quick, and then we can kind of go over how quick it is to just throw a map together, right? Okay, and you can see that this one was a little bit different to set up because the tiles were not all connected like this. So you can kind of see I'm going to use this one as the middle tile, this one as the edge, corner, edge, corner, edge, corner, edge, corner, and then these are going to be the surrounding just like that we had down here, right, to fill in those corners. And this is actually, if we go to our tile map, I'm going to do this on the miscellaneous layer. We can go to terrain and we can see this is grass on grass. And if we were to draw, you can kind of see that we can now create a mountain on top of this area, just like that. And then, you know, theoretically, if we were to just go and create another layer, right, and add in a tile map, use that same tile sheet, and then just end up using this grass on grass terrain, we can end up adding in another one, right? And you can kind of see how quick we just did that. We just threw all that together. We created layers, we created different levels to our little mountain that we have here. And let's say, for example, we wanted to create another layer, right? We could just create another layer, and we can load in that same tile sheet. Let's say that we wanted to create a little camp up here on the very top. We can end up going and using that animated campfire that we already had, right? And we can place a campfire around, and then we can create, you know, for example, this little grave site up there. But of course, we would have to create these tiles separately. just because of the reason that they are kind of big and we have to change the origin of them as well, right? But remember, let's see if you can do this part on your own, right? So we can do this, then we can go over here to the paint. So pause this video and see if you can change the origin on your own. But remember, you go down here to the texture origin, and then we can go and change these by 8 because they are 8 off from where they should be, and we can boom, boom. And then we can go back to our tile map, and then we can add in some graves up here at the very top, right? And they're all going to be lined up like they should be. But you're going to see how quick that we were just able to throw that together there, and it took about 2 seconds to throw it together, right? And then we can throw this chest down and all this different stuff, and we can just do it like super quick now because we set everything up. So that is honestly the power of tile maps here in Godot, and I hope this video was able to shed some light on how powerful tile maps are, especially here in the new 4.3 update. Of course, they were already very, very beneficial and very powerful to use back before that, but they are even better now, and I am kind of in love with the tile maps here in Godot. So I recommend you checking them out. I recommend you learning to use them correctly because it will save you so much time and allow you to create some amazing stuff in the future. Remember, if you did like this tutorial and it did help you in some way, then I hope that you subscribe and try and help push this video to more aspiring game developers to see as well. If you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be for sure to get back to you and help you out. But I tried to make this video as informative as I possibly could because I know how important it is to know how to use things here in Godot, and I know if you don't know how to use things correctly, then you kind of will get frustrated with the whole system. And
excuse my language, that's a hang up on high city I've been feeling. I'm sorry, I feel no attraction, and now that it's been a bit, 'cause I've been so long, so long. Hey. 'Cause I've been so long, so long. I just need someone in my life to give it structure, to handle all the selfish ways I'd spend my time without her. You're everything I want, but I can't deal with all your love. You're saying I'm the one, but it's your actions that speak louder. Giving me love when you are down and need another. I've gotta get away and let you go. I've gotta get over. But I love you so. I love you so. I love you so. I love you so.
hide in. Click on our terrain set that we just created.
Who would you die for? Who would you lie for? Lie for? This ain't the Bible. 'Cause I got a rifle. Don't ever fuck with me. 'Cause I got enemies. Nobody's there for me. So Father, forgive me for you know that I'm always in it. I take new interest partying with liquor fucking up my system.
Created, and then we can name this grass water, right? So this will be the grass connecting to the water tile set. And then to start adding this to our tiles, we can come down here to the lower ground layer. We can click on the paint tab, change this from texture origin down to terrains.
I've been so low for so long. Yeah. Who do you ride for? Who do you cry for? It's now or never. Gotta keep it together. Oh Lord, it's taking over me. 'Cause I got enemies. Nobody's there for me. So Father, forgive me for you know that I'm always in it. I take new interest partying with liquor fucking up my system. Excuse my language, that's a hang up on how shitty I've been feeling.
Click go down. So since this is grass, the basic.
'Cause I've been so low for so long. Yeah. 'Cause I've been so low for so long. Yeah. You do no wrong. And I tried my best, yeah, only to fall. Going in and out of love, burning rubber, riding solo, yeah, I'm too fucked up. Tell me what you really want from me. Is that too much? Is that too much? Is that too much? Oh, 'cause I've been so low for so long.
Like in any photo edit this to our tiles,
Yeah. 'Cause I've been so low for so long. Yeah.
to the edges.
One more shot, 'cause I feel like you're up to something. Fuck that, you're up to something. Scandalous. Taste my bitter heart, you know it makes you blush. But something isn't right with this. I've been missing the attention, you don't listen. You've been giving, you've been spending all your time on the line. Oh. oh, yeah, yeah. You're like Novocaine, Novocaine, yeah, yeah. Poison in my brain, Novocaine, hey, 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 yeah. You're like Novocaine, Novocaine. Overdosing over you, got me feeling like a movie. Come over, let's make a movie and work your body down, down, down. Down, down, oh, reminiscing every picture with you. Yes, I miss you, but you wasn't happy. Kick it with you in the city, busy, but you wasn't in it for the magic. And I don't want to find love. Got me going through the motions. So come on, baby, give me something. 'Cause something isn't right with this. I've been missing the attention. You don't listen. You've been giving. You've been spending all your time on the line. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. You're like Novocaine, Novocaine, yeah, yeah. Poison in my brain, Novocaine, hey, 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 yeah. You're like Novocaine, Novocaine. Poison in my brain, Novocaine. We were a fire, pretty guns, inside it burns. Don't want no piece of you. Give it all, give it all. Put on a show for two. Show it all, show it all. When it hurts so good, pretty burns inside your veins. Don't want no piece of you. Give it all, give it all. Put on a show for two. Show it all, show it all. No one about it, but you give me hyper. You give me hyper. We were a fire, pretty guns, inside it burns. Don't want no piece of you. Give it all, give it all. Put on a show for two. Show it all, show it all. No one about it, but you give me hyper. You give me hyper. faking every day for the paper. You don't like people, but you love being famous. You're downright evil, heard you're searching for heaven. And now you wanna leave, and now you wanna leave. Okay, a minute over, it's never getting better. You let it burn me in the fall, and so panoramic you can't even afford. I'm ignoring your petty presence is unimportant, so unimportant. No, I don't want you, I don't need you in my life. If you're gonna walk in and out the door, baby, come is coming, come is coming. If I got other bitches, then how am I alone? Don't want your pity on my problem. Face it, I hit the bottom. If I got other bitches, then how am I alone? Don't want your pity on my problem. Face it, I hit the bottom. Faking every day for the paper. You don't like people, but you love being famous. You're downright evil, heard you're searching for heaven. And now you wanna leave, and now you wanna leave. Okay, a minute over, it's never getting better. You let it burn me in the fall, and so panoramic you can't even afford. I'm ignoring your petty presence is unimportant, so unimportant. No, I don't want you, I don't need you in my life. If you're gonna walk in and out the door, baby, come is coming, come is coming. If I got other bitches, then how am I alone? Don't want your pity on my problem. Face it, I hit the bottom. If I got other bitches, then how am I alone? Don't want your pity on my problem. Face it, I hit the bottom. So just sit here, relax your body. It's on the one. Let's get comfortable. My lips on your skin. I just wanna lay down next to you, girl. Is that too much to ask for? Is that too much to ask for? I don't wanna lay between your legs. Listen while I whisper, no I'm not finna beg. Let me kiss your body up to your forehead. I just wanna breathe your air. Just let me know you're there. Ooh, I really wanna make a move, but I won't unless you want me to. And yes, I want you to sit here, relax your body. It's on the one. Let's get comfortable. My lips on your skin. I just wanna lay down next to you, girl. Is that too much to ask for? Is that too much to ask for? I'm not trying to score. Your heart's an open door. I got the key, I'm trying to keep composure and some more. I know you want some more. Can your body hear me? Want you to feel me. And oh, I really wanna make a move, but I won't unless you want me to. And yes, I want you to sit here, relax your body. It's on the one. Let's get comfortable. Oh, my lips on your skin. I just wanna lay down next to you, girl. Is that too much to ask for, baby? Is it too much to ask for? Situations bring you back to me. Oh, love is never break off. I guess you weren't that all. On my head, you say that I'm dying to forget. I bit the bullet for you, for you. I wrote a song too many pennies, so I hope you hear me know that I've been thinking about you. Oh, thinking about you. When it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, heart sound. When it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, sound. Da 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 da, da 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 da, no. Da 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 da, oh. Never give up on your love for me. Oh, I'm unforgettable. You'll see me. No, I'm all yours. I'm all yours. Oh, 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 you didn't know who it is. Oh, 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 you should know. When it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, heart sound. When it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, sound. Da 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 da, da 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 da, no. Da 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 da, oh. And there's a question that I'll never ask. No one to help me when I'm feeling bad. Hesitation, hesitation. Oh, you gotta know. I've been a mess since I met you. I'm stuck in your mood and when it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, heart sound. When it's dark out, I'm the one you need. Yeah, listen to the beating of your heart sound, sound. Da 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 da, da 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 da, no. Da 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 da, oh. enemy. You get behind me, the Lord said. How are my family? Running my shit right now. Running my shit. Assembly. Give me the mind and keep me in bed. I want a better peace. Give me the strength somehow. I'm so tired of all of it. Push it all in love, slip it under rug. What the fuck we gon' do? Fuck we gon' do? Push it all in love, slip it under rug. What the fuck we gon' do? Fuck we gon' do? Enemy, you get behind me, the Lord said. I want my family running my shit right now. Assembly, give me the mind and keep me in bed. I want a better peace. Give me the strength somehow. Push it all in love, slip it under rug. What the fuck we gon' do? Fuck we gon' do? Push it all in love, slip it under rug. What the fuck we gon' do? Fuck we gon' do? It's 2 o'clock on the dot and I haven't slept in weeks. I drink a lot and never fails me, or so I think. I love 6 feet under and you can't hear my voice. Call after call after call after call, twice today and 10 tomorrow. Oh no, but you never answer calls. Endless, 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 endless calls. Endless, 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 endless calls. Endless, 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 endless calls. Endless, endless calls. I'll be way out of town where no one's near to find me, though no one's ever looking. Lately, I've been lucid dreaming of you, but call after call after call after call, and wondering where you are. Hope you're not in someone's arms. Please hold on to me. Hold on, please. Hold on. Endless, 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 endless. Endless, endless. Face sinks, heart swollen, buried down below. Tastings, got spoiled, buried down below. They see your heart's born, buried down below. Face sinks, heart swollen, buried down below. Tastings, got spoiled, buried down below. They see your heart's born, buried down below. Endless, 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 endless. you're not open. Underneath the stars, we're the only ones. Give me love, pull me closer, holding every heart. 'Cause you're beautiful. They don't know what I know. No one told me love would hurt so hard. I don't need a lot, whole lot. I'm in love. Don't you rub it all in. I need your love. Symphony, won't you kiss me? Shut me up, please dance with me, and I'll sing to you. A symphony, won't you kiss me? Shut me up, please dance with me, and I'll sing to you in my heart. Oh yeah, please dance with me, and I'll sing to you a symphony. Won't you kiss me? Shut me up, please. She's a goddess, a wish from a star in my heart. Oh yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?